Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are unpacking a truly fascinating piece of ancient text, Matthew chapter 10. We aren't just going to look at this as some dusty old historical document. As we'll see today, this text is actually a deeply symbolic eschatological mission manual. It's a strategic briefing given by Jesus to his closest followers, and it's absolutely loaded with profound theological meaning that bridges the ancient world with a massive cosmic kingdom agenda. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this by starting with a really specific question. Why exactly 12 apostles? Not 10, not 15, but 12. It's a number we're all pretty familiar with, but as our source material reveals, this isn't just a random headcount. There is a profound, prophetic significance behind this specific number that basically unlocks the entire meaning of their mission.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the harvest and the call. 2, reconstituting the 12 tribes. 3, a countercultural mission protocol. 4, sheep among the wolves. And finally 5, the cosmic stakes of allegiance, division, and reward.
All right, section 1, the harvest and the call, a shepherdless flock.
So picture this. Imagine Jesus surveying the massive, itinerant crowds of Galilee right before handing out this mission briefing. He is moved with this visceral, deep compassion because the people are totally harassed and helpless. The text perfectly describes them as like sheep without a shepherd, and this directly echoes ancient prophetic laments, like the ones you find in Numbers and Ezekiel, about the spiritual failure of Israel's contemporary leadership. Recognizing the extreme vulnerability of the people, Jesus tells his disciples to pray for laborers. And Matthew 10? Well, it's the direct canonical answer to that very prayer.
Moving on to section 2, reconstituting the 12 tribes, the squad, and the symbolism.
To really grasp their role, we have to look at a highly specific legal concept from the ancient world. So the crucial point is this Hebrew legal institution of the shaliach, or commissioned agent. Under this framework, an agent doesn't just pass along a message like a courier. They operate under the mind-bending principle that a man's agent is as the man himself. Jesus is literally conferring delegated messianic authority right onto these disciples. They aren't acting on their own initiative. They are official envoys of the king, mediating his actual presence and authority.
And that brings us right back to our question about the number 12. Like I said, this isn't just a head count, it is a bombshell prophetic statement. By choosing exactly 12, Jesus is symbolically and prophetically reconstituting the scattered, broken 12 tribes of Israel. Within this Hebraic framework, the entire mission prioritizes the ancient Abrahamic promise plan to regather ethnic Israel. These 12 disciples are quite literally standing in as the foundation for the restored 12 tribes. To a first-century listener, hearing this was a massive, earth-shaking declaration that God's ancient promises to Abraham and Israel were being fulfilled right in front of them. Now, what's really interesting here is the shocking social and political diversity unified under this new kingdom mission. Just look at this. On one hand, you have Simon the Zealot, a political radical deeply committed to violent anti-Roman resistance. But sitting at the exact same table is Matthew, a former Roman tax official, literally an agent of the very empire Simon hated. I mean, you can only imagine how awkward those early team dinners must have been, right? Yet, under this shared messianic authority, these immense, seemingly impossible divides are totally bridged.
Which brings us to section 3, a counter-cultural mission protocol, marching orders.
Think about packing for a trip today. Now imagine your boss forbids you from taking a wallet, a suitcase, or even a spare change of clothes. Seriously, these marching orders are intensely strict. The apostles are explicitly forbidden from taking gold, silver, copper, a travel bag, an extra tunic, sandals, or even a staff. So why the extreme packing list? Because these prohibitions forced a radical, totally countercultural itinerancy. By stripping away all their material security, they were forced into total reliance on divine stewardship. They just had to trust that the Lord of the harvest would actually provide for them as they carried out this kingdom work.
And since they couldn't bring provisions, they relied entirely on local hospitality, which, by the way, had a very strict protocol of its own. They were to find a receptive, worthy household and offer a greeting of peace or shalom. If accepted, boom, they stayed. But if they were rejected, they were told to literally shake the dust off their feet. And guys, this wasn't just some sign of minor annoyance. It carried heavy eschatological weight. Rejecting the Messiah's agents, rejecting his shaliach, meant catastrophic judgment. We're talking about bringing down a fate worse than Sodom and Gomorrah.
All right, section 4, sheep among the wolves, facing the opposition.
Jesus doesn't sugarcoat things. He tells them they are being sent out as sheep in the midst of wolves, which obviously creates this intense, terrifying vulnerability.
And this brilliantly illustrates the striking paradox required for them to actually survive. To navigate this predatory environment of hostile courts and synagogues, they must possess serpentine shrewdness. That means strategic, cunning wisdom. But it has to be perfectly paired with dove-like innocence, pure, uncompromised integrity. They have to be brilliantly smart, yet entirely pure. A really tough balance to strike.
But when they inevitably face these terrifying trials, getting dragged before councils and governors, the text offers a profound comfort. They aren't supposed to worry about their defense. The promise here is of pneumatological inspiration. The Ruach Abba, the Spirit of the Father, will speak directly through them in that exact hour. They are never, ever truly alone in that courtroom.
To counteract the sheer terror of this opposition, the perspective kind of zooms out to a cosmic scale. Jesus points out that 2 tiny sparrows are sold for a single, practically worthless coin, yet not a single one falls without the Creator's decree. In stark contrast, even the very hairs on the disciples' heads are numbered. To put that into perspective, it's just a beautiful reminder of providential care. If God governs the fate of a tiny sparrow, He's for sure going to care for His commissioned envoys.
Finally, Section 5, Allegiance, Division, and Reward, the Cosmic Stakes.
Here, Jesus totally shatters any superficial expectations of a completely tranquil earthly ministry. He flat out declares, "I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." Because this mission demands uncompromising allegiance to the king, it supersedes all natural earthly obligations. This absolute loyalty, it will inevitably cause fractures and division even within the closest, tight-knit, patriarchal family structures. And this leads into a truly profound paradox of discipleship. If you try to aggressively preserve and find your life, your psyche, in this present age, it actually results in ultimate loss and ruin. But actually, if you embrace radical self-surrender, taking up your cross and losing your life for the Messiah's sake, you secure eternal life in the world to come, the Olam Haba. It's the ultimate reversal. Let's move to and see how this builds right back into what we talked about earlier. Whoever receives you receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. This connects directly back to that legal shaliach framework we defined. Receiving the humble traveling disciple is functionally the exact same thing as welcoming the Messiah, and by extension the Creator himself. The stakes are massive.
Because of this deep principle of identification, the text highlights that this grand, world-altering mission places immense value on the smallest of gestures, even giving a simple cup of cold water to a vulnerable disciple, just because they bear the identity of the King, carries massive eternal weight. That simple act of kindness will absolutely not lose its reward.
So, what does this all mean? We're left with this final, provocative thought to ponder. How does a massive cosmic mission, designed to prophetically reconstitute the 12 tribes of a fractured nation and challenge the very powers of the world, ultimately distill down to a single cup of cold water offered in kindness? It's a beautiful, brilliant tension between grand, earth-shaking theological promises and the simple, vulnerable necessity of human compassion. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I hope this gives you a whole new lens through which to view this incredible mission briefing. Catch you next time.